So thankfully, Maker completely destroyed all evidence of my blog in the eyes of the all-powerful AdSense account. Hello, friends, and welcome to a Hasty Podcast. You're listening to a Hasty Podcast. I'm your local Fiverr seller, Weston Hasty, and today we will be just talking about, I feel like I just stumbled on the word just. Did I just say dust? I feel like I just said dust. We'll be just discussing a couple of topics that have come to my mind, and in fact, I should have pulled this up a little bit sooner. I'm just checking on a few things, that I will pull up here in just a moment because I have a question that I would like to answer, and I have a topic to discuss. Welcome to the best intro of all time. Here on the Hasty Podcast, we talk about video games, we talk about sometimes Netflix shows, we talk about YouTube. Today I'll be talking about Fiverr because that's a thing that I do, and we are a podcast that you can listen to on basically any of your favorite podcasts. I mean, if you're listening to this, you know this, but in case you're unfamiliar, I'm available on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, on Anchor. I'm available on YouTube as well for a video version of the podcast. It's the same thing as the audio version, except now you've got video as well. You can listen to it from there. You can watch it from there. I've actually been quite pleasantly surprised. For anyone that is listening to this via one of the listening platforms and not through YouTube, I've actually been pleasantly surprised to see how popular the YouTube version of the podcast has been so far. It's actually kind of funny. I'm going to go on a side tangent from what I thought I was going to talk about. It's actually kind of funny. Way back in the day, I'd played around with doing a podcast before, kind of like messed around with the idea, started a podcast before with some of my friends that we call... I used to do a podcast called The G Spot. The G was short for gamer, I promise. And gamer or gaming, I forget what it was. But the idea that the name of the podcast, if you couldn't tell, was just a way to get people's attention and maybe listen in. And it was something that I tried to do live streaming to... Where did I live stream it to? Twitch? YouTube? I live streamed it somewhere, was the idea. I took a lot of inspiration. This was many years ago. I took a lot of inspiration from the popular, at the time, the popular gaming podcast, the Co-optional podcast, that was also streamed to Twitch at the time. I took a huge inspiration from that and doing a gaming podcast, which I eventually ended up renaming and rebranding the podcast later to be a little bit more serious than the previous podcast, but it had a very short lifespan, and it eventually got canned and put aside. Mostly due to the fact that I was co-hosting it with a few different people. Schedules always changed. It was hard to get everyone on at the same time. It was just getting harder to shoot the podcast, basically. And besides that as well, it wasn't super popular, and it was something that at the time I wasn't committed to seeing through anymore. Like it got lower and lower on the priorities list, basically, and it kind of fizzled out and died. But at the time when I was running that podcast, it wasn't particularly popular, and I've been quite pleasantly surprised to see now. This is still not a super popular podcast, don't get me wrong. I'm not the next insert big podcast. I don't know, whatever you think of when you think of a big podcaster, I'm definitely not that. But I have been pleasantly surprised to see that it's gotten kind of more traction on the YouTube side of things than the listening side of things. And I've been surprised because back in the day when I was doing that other podcast, I had this sort of nagging suspicion that YouTube and Twitch weren't really ideal podcast hosting solutions for someone that wanted to host a podcast, that those two sites were not really ideal for that. And over time, now I've not experimented with Twitch in recent times, but with my recent foray into doing a podcast on YouTube, it's kind of interesting that it's really not a bad place to start. So if you're out there listening to this and you're considering doing a podcast or looking for podcasts, but probably specifically if you're looking to do a podcast, if you're looking for some place to host it, I definitely don't recommend ignoring audio sources, whether you want to go through, like I use Anchor, for example, but if you have another hosting service in mind, go for it. It's audio, do it, but don't ignore possibly putting it up on YouTube. Even if you don't have a video component, even if it's a static screen, I do recommend having a video component to it if you put it on YouTube, because that's obviously sort of where YouTube shines. This is a video sharing platform. So I definitely recommend considering creating a video version of your podcast to put on YouTube. But don't ignore YouTube, because oddly enough, for this podcast, it's not been as dead as I expected it to be. Anyway, I hope I've wasted enough time. Today, I want to talk about some particularly exciting news for me in attaining the level 2 seller rank in Fiverr. That probably doesn't mean a lot to a lot of you, but I just wanted to talk about it because it's new in my life and it's kind of exciting. And I wanted to talk about that and the things that I've done around Fiverr and why I do it. I just want to talk about that for a little bit. And then I also have a question coming from, I just had it pulled up. Where'd it go? I have a question coming from Red the Gaming Ninja over on the YouTube, asking me to maybe discuss MCNs. They weren't sure if I knew what an MCN was. Actually, I do. I do know what an MCN is. It's a multi-channel network on YouTube. And I used to be a part of one. I used to be a part of Maker. For anyone that's familiar with YouTube, with MCNs and that world, you're probably also familiar with the name Maker. And I wanted to discuss just a little bit about that experience working on that. Yes. Sorry, I'm just trying to read something real quick. Oh, yeah. I was just checking my Hasty Podcast hashtag as well. Hang on, I'm reading. I should have had this prepared before. I have a hashtag on Twitter that you can send me, hashtag Hasty Podcast, if you want to send me questions and comments and things to talk about on the podcast. I will be reading from that. And I can't read fast enough. I'll look at that in a moment, but we'll talk about those things here in just a minute. If you can't tell, I'm a little not put together. Last week, I had a guest on the show, Alex Duquette, from Alex Duquette Music over on YouTube. He's a musician that kind of like live streams musical jam sessions and that kind of thing on, not jam session, it's like jam and like he has a jam session, but he chats with the audience. It's very interactive. So it's not just like someone just jamming away and you're just kind of watching it like a performance. It's an interactive performance. So you could check that out. Look up Alex Duquette Music on YouTube. You can check that out as well. He's also been doing some Twitch streaming of some video games. You can look up AP Duquette on Twitch for that. But here recently, it's very exciting news. He's released an EP, an extended play. I'm not big into the world of music. Basically, an EP is like kind of like a half album. Is kind of like that's what I call it. But he's just released several new songs that he's worked on over on Spotify and on Apple and on somewhere else. But you should definitely go look up Alex Duquette on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, on Amazon Music as well, and look him up on Amazon and that kind of thing. So we just had him last week as a guest. This week, I'm going to be talking about myself. It's just me here today. It's very exciting. I'm a little out of my element right now. I'm not used to doing the podcast. Last week, while we were talking to Alex, I was talking about how I really desperately wanted to get a microphone arm for the things that I do, so that my microphone wasn't sitting in front of me on a desk that you could constantly hear me slamming into the desk and tapping away on my keyboard, all this crazy stuff. I really wanted a microphone arm so I could kind of hover the microphone away from my face and away from my stuff and give me a lot more room to work with. I have that microphone arm and I'm using it right now. It's very exciting. Hopefully I sound amazing. It's the same microphone. So hopefully I sound exactly the same. But now, with this microphone arm, it's quite exciting. I have it situated in a different place. So if you're watching this on the YouTube version, you can probably see that it's kind of a different look right now. I've got a random pair of earbud wires hanging above my head. That's probably not necessary. I can move that out of the way. But if you're listening to the audio version, hopefully you don't really hear much of a difference whatsoever, except just maybe you won't hear me bumping into and tapping my microphone and hitting my desk so much. So I'm quite happy about that. And we discussed that last week. This week, I want to talk about my Fiverr level 2 seller status. For some of you that don't know, I do have a store, a shop, a service. A service makes the most sense. I have a service that I sell on a website called Fiverr. Fiverr is this sort of freelancing hosting service. It's a platform that hosts a bunch of freelancers that work in a number of different fields. I myself have a shop there, a store there, where I sell a service where I make Let's Play videos for independent game developers. And I'm looking to expand my store into my shop, my services into other areas as well. But that's kind of my main gig, is that I make Let's Play videos for independent developers. That way, they get to advertise and market their game to an audience. It's kind of like marketing, but above and beyond that, also, those developers now have a video of someone else playing their game that they can always point their audience to. So besides just the sheer marketing aspect of it, I'm sure you've all seen, like whether it's on YouTube or somewhere else, someone who's sponsored by some game, like a Raid Shadow Legends or something like that, where someone has an ad for a game. That's different from what I do. That's like marketing. That's just marketing. That's just trying to get a name out there and get people used to hearing that name or whatever. My service particularly provides my personality and commentary and perspective and first impressions of a game, and I've packaged that into a video such that if you wanted to direct potential buyers or customers to a video of your game, you can use my video. That's kind of the idea, and it's in a Let's Play format so that it holds this sort of, I hate to say air of genuine authenticity because that makes it sound like it's fake, but the idea is that it's not the developers playing it who are going to be biased towards their game, are going to not have the same perspective as the customer might have into walking into playing a game. So my service gets used for a couple of different things often. Sometimes developers like buying a Let's Play from me just to see what it looks like to have a genuine playthrough from someone who's never seen the game before, just to see what that looks like from someone. And that has been quite valuable to people, where it kind of flirts the line of play testing, except that I am not a play tester. I don't play test the game. I don't look for bugs, and that I don't do any of that. But in that sort of same sphere of influence, sometimes developers hire me and they watch my Let's Play video and they're like, oh, okay, I didn't think that a player would do this, that, or whatever, or find this, that, or whatever the case might be. So it serves a couple of different purposes. One, it's for people on YouTube to watch, and that kind of introduces them to this game that they might then go and download or buy or whatever the case might be. So it's marketing, but then it's also like video making, and the video itself can hold inherent value. So that's what I do. And I do that on Fiverr. I offer it through Fiverr. As opposed to going out and trying to find these developers, I have a store on Fiverr so that they can find me. It works much better for what I do, since I'm a very small channel on YouTube as well. I'm not big. People aren't really looking to find me in particular. No one knows my name. I don't exist out there. So Fiverr is a great platform for small freelancers to just have a storefront to send people, or for people to discover you through, so that you can sell your services that way, since I don't have this sort of weight to pull strings and get customers elsewise, unless I really start doing some crazy digging and sending out like thousands of cold call emails, right? So I use Fiverr, and I've been using it for many years, actually. I've been using it for many, many, many years, and I've just now reached a level 2 seller, and that just basically means I've maintained a certain rating on the website. I perform my orders on time, and I don't have cancellations, and I have high reviews, and I've earned Fiverr so much money on the platform, so they rank you up. There's a level 0, which is what everyone starts at, and you do have to be on the platform for X amount of time before you can level up. I think to get to level 1, you have to be on the platform for like at least a month. To get to level 2, you have to be on the platform for at least like 3 months or something like that. So there are minimum amounts of time you have to spend on the platform before you can get leveled up and that kind of thing. But I've been on Fiverr for years now. And it's actually kind of funny because this is going to tie into our discussion about MCNs later. Weirdly enough, it is. I promise you. But I've been on the platform for many years, and it's something that I threw up on the platform just out of curiosity to see if there were any takers. And my thinking was, I'm already doing a Let's Play gaming channel called Magic Man Mo on YouTube. And whether I get paid to do it or not, this is what I already do. So why not? I'll just go on Fiverr. We'll see if there's any takers. If no one cares about it and no one ever orders my gig, no big deal. I'm going to come in with 0 expectations. So I threw that concept up on Fiverr about being a Let's Player for hire, basically. And I really undersold myself. It was a real value package because the idea for me, I was looking at how things kind of operate on Fiverr. I've got no reviews, right? I've got no sort of history. I've got nothing to really show people to like guarantee the quality of what I do or the value of what I do. So I did what anybody in my position would do, is that I just sold my service extremely cheaply. Man, back in the day, I think you could order like a package of 5 Let's Play videos for like $15, which was seriously undercutting the value of my time, basically. But I wanted to do that to basically beef up my portfolio, right, with reviews and stuff, to get some of the, to try to entice people to take a chance on a new Fiverr seller, a new freelancer. I don't know what I'm doing anyway, so I don't really know what to price point things at, so I really undervalued my time, because, for 5 Let's Play videos, I might spend 5 hours working on that project, and for $15, I'm making, $3 an hour or whatever, so, it's very undervaluing my actual time. But you have to remember, too, I didn't expect anyone to, take me up on this offer either. So that is definitely not how I operate things now, but that's how I started, is that I had this sort of 3 packages. We could order 1 video, 3 videos, or 5 videos for $5, $10, and $15. It was absurd. Thinking back on it now, it's actually absurd that I offered that extreme level of value. It's crazy. It's absurd. I could barely get a sandwich and a half. I can get 2 sandwiches for the price of working for 5 hours. If I work my butt off for 5 hours and making this $15 package, I can afford to buy 2 sandwiches. So it's kind of crazy what I was offering at, but it's what I went for and did. And oddly enough, or maybe not surprisingly because of how cheap the service was, but I didn't know what the demand for what I did would be at the time. So oddly enough, developers did slowly start finding me and ordering my packages. And slowly over time, I started to build a bit of a portfolio for myself on Fiverr, and I got some reviews in. And I even got some repeat customers over the years, to the point where I could slowly start actually kind of ramping up the value of my service and what I offer and what I charge and that kind of thing, to the point I don't even remember when I started. I think I first made my Fiverr account back in 2014, 15, something like that. There was a point in time where I took a long break off of Fiverr that was a year and a half, 2 years, something like that, because at the time I just wasn't interested in doing it anymore. And then I came back to it, and I'm back at it again, and I've been doing it again now for maybe about a year. And I've leveled myself up to level 2 seller by providing this service to people. And I've had all kinds of different clients come through. And I've got a few repeat clients that come through every now and again when they have a new game or something to show off. Some people will hire me to do longer Let's Play series. And again, I don't try to question really why a client would want X number of videos or X amount of time for their video. I don't question that. I just provide this, and whatever value it brings you, it brings you. And I've had so many happy customers. After over 140 reviews, I have a 5-star rating on the platform. This is just me kind of bragging a little bit, isn't it? This is me kind of bragging a little bit. I will admit, you get some wild, crazy questions and offers sometimes that are a little strange. I've been asked to do things that I just don't do. I've been asked to just play a game for someone or with someone, and that's not what I do. That's the weird one. And on Fiverr, it's kind of interesting. Back in the day when I started this package, there weren't really other people doing Let's Plays on Fiverr. There were people, usually young women, offering to play a game with you, like Overwatch or some multiplayer game, to play with you for $5 an hour or whatever, $5-10 an hour, which is strange. I don't want to judge anyone, but it's kind of I don't know, I will be your Fortnite buddy. We'll play duos for an hour for $10, and it just sounds so lonely and so sad. But that was kind of what existed on the platform before, so I suppose I shouldn't be surprised when I got kind of similar offers from random people passing through Fiverr, be like, "Oh, will you play this with me?" And I'm like, "No, that's not at all what I do." It's, unfortunately, but I make videos, and or other things where I have been people have tried to hire me to play test their game. I'm like, I'm not a play tester. I don't work for you. I in terms of I'm not your employee. I don't play test. I don't look for bugs. I don't make logs. It's not what I do. That's not my area of expertise. Sometimes people have asked me to actually this has happened twice, which I guess I could talk about, where people have, on 2 separate occasions, have tried to hire me to be their YouTuber. They were going to have a YouTube channel for Let's Plays. I would be the personality or host for the channel or whatever. except they would own the channel, right? Which I've kind of like, I try to work with those people, both of those people that in the past, because they misled me into what it was they were actually asking me to do. They misled me. My understanding was that they were trying to create like a network. Again, this kind of goes into the MCN thing later. They were trying to create a network of several Let's Players, and they would all have content that goes onto one channel. So in that vein, through the emails I'd sent between these two individuals over time, this was two separate occasions, but they were basically the same thing. I don't know why I fell for it the second time, but where my understanding was that I would do the Let's Play, and I would send them the video footage, and they would themselves or have someone else edit it together and actually make the video, and they would post it to their YouTube channel. They would monetize it. I don't make any money from the YouTube. They just pay me basically on a per recording basis. That was my understanding. And then as I would get further into this project with these people, they were like, oh no, we need you to record. Oh no, by the way, we haven't even started the YouTube channel. Oh, by the way, the YouTube channel is not monetized. Oh, by the way, we don't have any money. Could you do this for free? And I'm like, how did we get this far down this rabbit hole? How did this happen? And then I had to pull the plug. And weirdly enough, this happened to me twice. This happened to me twice, where someone has tried to start a YouTube channel that has, again, to the best of my knowledge, never had any other Let's Player lined up. It was just me. So twice this has happened where someone's tried to hire me to like be their personal YouTuber, which is wild. So Fiverr is an interesting and wild place where you get all kinds of strange requests. And it doesn't help that sometimes there are some very serious language barriers between yourself and some of your clients where you don't necessarily know for sure if you're both on the same page about something. So learning from that, I have tried to make sure that I am very clear about what my gig is and I don't deviate outside of that. There have been a handful of exceptions that I have done for people that I'm okay with having done, and I actually still do for specific people. There are a couple of exceptions, but beyond those exceptions, I try to make it very clear this is what the gig does, and if anyone asks me for anything else that is not that gig, I turn it down. I'm like, I'm sorry, that's not what I do. And I've had that happen before, where people have tried to have me like record myself doing like just praising a product or something. I don't know, something that would take me like no time at all and I could just get some money off of quick or whatever, but it's not what I do, so I turn it down. And I've had people try to beg me into doing things like, oh, it's not that hard, or it won't take that long, or oh, why can't you do this? It's so easy, or whatever the case is. And I have to respond like, I'm not doing it because I can't physically do it. I'm not doing it because it's not what I do. And I've been burned so many times before where people have tried to get me to do things, but then the parameters of the gig keep changing over time. What was it? There was this game. It started off so innocent where this person tried to hire me to let's play a game of theirs. Presumably it's theirs. The order ended up never happening because it kept developing into something different. But presumably I was going to do a let's play of this game. And what it turned into is that they kept asking me to basically just show off the game to the point where they wanted like a 1 minute section of me just being like, oh, here's this game by so-and-so, you should play it, or whatever the case it was. And it devolved to something like that. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that because I make videos. If I'm not making a let's play video that I will post to my YouTube channel, if that's not what I'm doing, I want nothing to do with it because I don't know what you're going to do with my footage. I don't know what you're going to do with my image, with my audio. I don't know what you're going to do with my green screen stuff that I do. I don't know what you're going to do with that product. It's not what I do. I have to turn it down. And that person offered me, well, look, I'll tell you what, I'll pay you your Fiverr gig and 5% of everything that the game makes on its launch, because this was a game that wasn't launched yet. When it launches, you'll get 5% of everything it makes for the first month. And I'm like, why? What is happening? Why are you begging me to do this 2-minute stupid video that literally you could do yourself? Why are you begging me to do this and offer me a cut of your profits, which, by the way, I assumed the game would make like no money anyway, which is probably why he didn't mind doing that, because it was all just a lie. But you start offering someone more and more stuff like that, my red flag signals are flying. I'm like, no, there's a scam here or something, and I don't understand what's happening. I'm out. So Fiverr is a weird place. Now, you don't get this super often, but Fiverr is a weird place where I do not recommend taking like custom orders from people very often because they'll start off one way and then just slowly devolve into something else. Now, there have been exceptions that I've done for people, where I've been a voice for something. I've done some vague voice acting before. I've done some videos that I didn't post, but that they were going to use for a promotional video or something like that for either a Steam storefront. I actually I help make a video that someone is using for their game on Steam, on their, like, when you go to Steam to buy a game, you know how there's like that opening video? I've done video for that before. I've done video that has appeared on like Google Play Store and that kind of thing. So there's a couple of exceptions where it's like just adjacent to what I do, and I've allowed that if I've got a good enough communication with the client. And yeah, over the years, I finally made it to Fiverr, a second level seller, and it just makes me feel like I've been taken a lot more seriously, basically, on Fiverr. Like, I feel like I'm starting to actually kind of make something of being this sort of freelancer. Again, it's still nowhere near enough money that I'm doing this like to live off of, but it's, you know, this sort of side hustle that allows me to earn an income on what had been previously a hobby of mine, something where I just make Let's Play videos on YouTube, anywhere where I'm sort of making this side hustle money. And it kind of begs this question. Like, how early is it? Like, can it be too early to be working on monetizing your hobbies or your side hustles and that kind of thing? Because for a lot of people, pursuing monetary gain on a small, like, so if we're talking about YouTube, on a YouTube channel, pursuing monetary gain too early could be detrimental to your YouTube channel. This is something I've discovered over time, that I've fallen into this pitfall before, where, say, you try to get YouTube partnership as soon as possible so that you can start smothering your videos and ads. But yeah, like, you have to get a YouTube partnership, you have to have 1,000 subscribers. So let's say you got the bare minimum 1,000 subscriber channel, tiny channel in the grand scheme of things, and you're like, okay, and partnership, and it's been approved, and I'm going to smother my videos with ads. Well, that's detrimental to you, because a lot of your viewership isn't going to want to sit through tons and tons of ads to watch your content. So that means you have fewer people watching your content, which only stunts and slows down the growth of your channel. So pursuing monetary gain can be detrimental to the growth of your brand. Whereas if you wait longer to build your brand and your identity on something like YouTube for longer before you start monetizing, you could actually see great benefit from that. I'm someone who has fallen for the trap of trying to pursue monetary gain too early in the past as well. You could argue that what I do on Fiverr, like, because I can see it both ways. Plenty of people that have given me their 5-star reviews, plenty of people have loved what I've provided and find some kind of value in it, that it was worth the price they paid. And other people ask me, like, well, how is what you do worth it? Like, you're such a small YouTube channel. How can you charge for what you do? You really should be doing this for free, which, again, anytime someone says you should be doing something for free, they're full of crap. But but some people really truly do believe that, honestly, you should be getting, like, if you're going to be doing content on YouTube, oh, well, you're benefiting from doing the Let's Play on YouTube. You're benefiting from that. You should be doing it for free. And a developer, if they want to give you a free key or something like that to play the game, that should be enough. Like, a developer shouldn't be expected to pay a Let's Player to play their game. And no, they shouldn't be expected to. This is not mandatory. And I have, in the past, I don't do this very often. In the past, I have communicated with independent developers that have emailed me, and I've played a couple of games for free that they sent me a key for, something that I was interested in. This was kind of like in the early days of Fiverr, or even before Fiverr, where, you know, you get these developers that kind of look for personalities to send their keys off to like play their game and kind of spread the word and that kind of thing. I've done it before. But there are some people that are very anti developers paying any money whatsoever for a personality on YouTube to cover their game. And I think those people miss the point that, like, I don't have to play their game, right? So like, if you want to be a developer that pays a personality to play your game, that's kind of like a way to assure that you actually get some content from some YouTuber or some personality to play your game. So it's like a guarantee. It depends on your size. Like, really, like, Ubisoft is never going to pay me at my size any money to play their game. Ubisoft doesn't need me, right? It depends on the size of the YouTube channel, the size of the developer, what your needs are. It depends. As it is with everything in life, the context is important. And it's a case-by-case basis. So I understand that sometimes the value of what I do is brought into question, which is why, again, like I say, with this Fiverr level 2 thing, it just kind of helps validate a little bit to me that what I do is worth something to somebody and that it's not completely pointless. So much so that I brag about this now because it's so funny. It's so funny. I brag about this. I'm literally Fiverr's #1 Let's Player. There aren't very many of us, and I've seen some come and go. They've come and gone. There aren't very many of us that do this, and I'm the #1 one. And I think that is hilarious. And I'm trying to work my way up. There's 3 levels. There's 0 through 3. The 3rd level is the final and last level of Fiverr seller. And I think it would be really funny to one day get to level 3 seller on Fiverr, where like literally I have personal contacts with Fiverr and they represent me and blah, 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 all this nonsense for being a guy that plays games for developers on Fiverr. This is something that people didn't think there was a space for once upon a time. And then here I am leading the charge on this platform, doing this service. It's so wild. It's so buck wild. And I don't know how to feel about it sometimes. And I can't believe that I do it. But yeah, it's so much so that I've recently kind of retweaked my storefront and change some things around in terms of my offering, and I'm looking to expand even further on the platform, and it's just very exciting. Where was I? I had another point I was about to make, though, about Fiverr. I was going to talk about MCNs, though, next, for sure. Get to that question by the Red Gaming Ninja asking me on YouTube about MCNs. And this, oddly enough, so MCNs, multi-channel networks, I used to be a part of one called Maker. Back in the day, there's a reason I joined one, because today, you might be surprised to hear that I was a part of a network, or maybe you won't be surprised, depending on how much you know about them. Today, it's pretty much widely understood that you should not join an MCN. Like, there are so few MCNs that have ever been worth anything to anyone, and even of those, it's like debatable whether or not it was worth doing. And there's so many more besides those. There's so many MCNs that are just scams, basically, out to take your money. So take some cut of what you do on YouTube, and they offer you nothing in return. They just take your money, basically. And Maker was kind of like that. I think if you were a really big creator, maybe Maker had some good things going for you. But in the long run, Maker was kind of one of those scams that didn't look like a scam at the time. But like when it was all, because Maker's gone now. It's dead. It got it big. It made up some numbers. It convinced investors to invest. It sold itself to Disney. Disney found out that Maker was a giant scam, and Disney lost a bunch of money, and Maker made it off scot-free. But anyway, that's all Maker history. Why did I join it? Well, back in the day, when I was just a dumb high schooler, this would have probably been like 2009 or 10 or not 9, probably 10 or 11, something like that. And I was exploring the idea of maybe starting a blog. This has nothing to do with YouTube, but maybe starting a blog. And I was messing around with that idea. And to make money on a blog, you know, one of the things you can do is open up an AdSense account through Google and post Google ads on your blog, right? So that was something that I played around with doing. And being the type of person that likes to like research and test everything. Like I got really interested in the sort of business aspect of blogging way more than actually making a blog, which turns out, surprise, surprise, is not going to help me. If you're too worried about making money on your blog, but not worried at all about what your blog is going to be or developing your blog's going to fail. So surprise, surprise, mine's going to fail. So I started doing that. I started writing some posts. I don't remember what I wrote about, some games, music, that kind of thing. I don't even remember what the blog was called. It probably still exists. I don't know if I took it down. It was like a Google Pages? What's the free service that Google... because you can get, I think it's Google Pages or something like that. You can get like a Google website and post like a blog to it or whatever. I don't remember what it was called. I truly don't remember. And I started doing that, and I started looking at this AdSense thing, and I applied for an AdSense for my blog. And at the time, the application process really did require you to say where you're going to be posting your ads. I'm like, okay, well, my ads would go on this blog. So the blog got presumably by a real person, maybe by an AI, I don't really know, but got checked out by somebody, and it was determined that the blog did not qualify for AdSense, basically. And so that was denied. And if I wanted to reapply, I could always do so later. And it was denied under the grounds that there just wasn't enough content there yet. The blog hadn't been around for long enough yet. There wasn't enough content being posted regularly. They couldn't get the data to determine the value that it would hold for AdSense. So I was like, okay, fair enough. And I started working on the blog a little bit more, but eventually I kind of lost interest in it and didn't ever do it again. So I never got this monetized blog, and I stopped blogging. Fast forward years later, in 2012, right, when I decided to start a YouTube channel. Now, I'm not worried about monetizing this YouTube channel yet because you have to apply for partnership in order for that to happen. And at the time, I don't remember what it was presumed, what the requirements for being a partner were, but like you needed to have so many like subscribers or views or whatever to apply. So I started doing YouTube because that was like a new passion, a hobby of mine. That's a story for another day. I started doing that. Fast forward some more time until like 2000. It might have been late 2012, maybe 2013, when I was like, okay, I'm going to apply for partnership. I think I have everything that I need. Because at that time, you didn't need the 1,000 subs and the 40,000 hours of watch time. All the requirements you need now didn't exist then. It was different. So I applied for partnership, and I got denied. But the reason I got denied was because of AdSense. So I was denied under... What was it? Actually, I don't remember. I might have been... It was super confusing, by the way. It was super confusing. It was a situation that I could find no help for online. No one had encountered my situation, or I just couldn't find help for it. I don't know which. But like, I was either denied or accepted partnership. But I might have been accepted partnership, but I was denied monetization. It was super confusing because when I went to monetize my YouTube, just to be able to, right? That part was denied on the grounds that my AdSense was denied. And I'm like, oh, well, that's super weird. Why is my AdSense denied? And I went into my AdSense account, and it was denied because my blog was denied. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to monetize the blog. The blog is gone. I don't use that. I want to monetize my YouTube. All right. So I went through my settings and I tried to make sure I like reapply the monetization for the YouTube page. Denied. I got denied again. I went to go see why, and the reason it was denied is because not enough people were looking at my blog. And I'm like, I'm not using a blog. I'm using YouTube. So I go through the process again. I'm like, monetize my YouTube. And it was denied. And the reason it was denied was, again, because my blog wasn't getting enough views, and it wasn't getting enough updates, and I wasn't writing to my blog. So what happened was that the automated process that AdSense used to accept or deny applications was still stuck on that first thing. So in order to get AdSense, period, I needed to do my blog. And I did not want to do that. I also didn't want to open up an entirely new email account to associate to my AdSense to apply for monetization, because at that time, my YouTube channel was using the same email that my blog had been using. If I got a new email for AdSense, that would have given me a new YouTube account to apply for. And that YouTube account wouldn't have qualified for partnership to begin with. So it was this issue where, like, if I wanted to get partnership monetized on my YouTube, I'd have to start entirely over. I'd have to completely start over. Or I'd have to somehow create a successful blog at the same time that I'm doing YouTube. And that just wasn't going to happen. So fast forward some more time, and I start looking into MCNs, where I'm like, well, what if I don't get partnership for YouTube, but I get partnership with an MCN, who then gets paid by YouTube, and then that MCN can pay me? And again, I'm jumping kind of like really into this whole like getting paid thing, which I didn't have any illusions about me making tons of money or anything like that. But the idea was that if this was ever going to become something or go anywhere, partnership and monetization were going to be necessary eventually. So I was just trying to set the groundworks, the framework, whatever I'm trying to say, for that. And the easiest MCN at the time to get into that was at least some level of credible, or appeared to be credible, because there were other ones. There's like Social Blade. There was, what's the one that everybody was a part of? The freaking, what was it called? The one that everyone was a part of. Frick. I can't think of it. There were other ones. There were bigger ones. But Maker was super easy. They had some very low requirements. I applied to that, and after some time, it took forever. Sometime I eventually got accepted into that. And that reinstated my partnership program. And I made partnership, and I was working under the label of Maker. And that's how I got to be a part of MCN. That's how I got my YouTube partnership, is by joining an MCN. And weirdly enough, I'm forever grateful that I got into that, because that's the only way I got the blog thing canceled. Later, when I do eventually leave Maker, I will have to reapply for my partnership. I've already done this in the past, but at the time, I knew that if I ever left Maker, I'd have to reapply. And eventually, when I did leave Maker, I reapplied, and AdSense had completely forgotten about and didn't care about my blog anymore at that point, because I did already used to have partnership for my YouTube blog in the eyes of the all-powerful AdSense account. So in a weird way, I'm forever grateful that I could get into Maker to fix that, so I could continue to use my same YouTube channel and develop and grow that. But now I'm a part of Maker, so now what? Well, Maker takes some portion of my money. I don't remember what it was exactly, because there's the money that comes in, which is like 100%. YouTube takes, I think, 30%, so you got 70% left. That goes to the MCN, and of that 70%, Maker took like another 30%, or maybe it was 20%. Let's just say it was 30. I don't remember what it was. Let's say it was 30. So that cuts it down to like roughly, me, the creator, is probably getting roughly 40-ish% of. That math might not check out. Don't worry about it. Don't think too hard. But the point is that I'm making like half of what I probably should be, right? That's kind of the idea. And a lot of people complained about that on Maker and any MCN for a long time. Why can Maker do that? Well, the idea behind an MCN, a multi-channel network, is that they provide you some other services that you can't otherwise get by yourself, and that's why they can take a cut of your money, basically. And for a lot of people, that service was copyright protection. If some copyright issue happened in your YouTube videos, the MCN would have to take care of it instead of the creator. So a lot of people did MCNs to avoid copyright issues, which, as the years went on, became way less possible, where so many MCNs were passing the buck on copyright issues to the creator, where no MCN was covering you. I don't know that Maker really covered me for copyright stuff at all. I'm not really sure to what level it was happening, because I was also such a small channel that a lot of my copyright issues that I would have otherwise had just weren't being picked up by YouTube systems at the time, because I was so low priority. Because even to this day, occasionally I'll get a copyright flag from some video I did, literally 8 years ago that isn't even public anymore. It's probably like a private video. It'd be like, oh yeah, you've got this music playing during this Legend of Zelda playthrough you did in 2013. And I'm like, okay, fine. They can have all of the 1 penny that I made from that video. It's great. They can have it. I don't care. It's gone. They can't retroactively take that money, but it's a private video. So it doesn't matter. Anyway. So that the copyright issue is one thing, but Maker had a couple other services as well that they had introduced that you could get. You had access to some copyright-free music. Well, it had copyright, but you had a license to it. So you got access to a licensed library of music from Epidemic Sound, which is a huge library, and depending on how much you need music, is valuable. But people were questioning the value of having Epidemic Sound a little bit, because at that time too, YouTube was eventually introducing their own audio library, so that if you were a partner, you could use YouTube's library of music anyway for free. So I used a lot of YouTube's library of music instead of Epidemic Sound. I did sometimes use Epidemic. I played with both, but again, that was something Maker offered, was this library of music. They offered a forum to talk to other creators and maybe form up collaborations and that kind of thing. In my experience on the forum, people weren't very cooperative. It was a lot of small channels that didn't know what they were doing and were very bad at scheduling things and very bad at communication. Nothing ever got done there. It was mostly a place to complain about things. And eventually I lost access to the forum. They started doing this beta program for this new version of the forum that I got locked out of for some reason. And I contacted customer support, and they're like, oh, okay, we'll fix it. You should be able to get in now. I never could. So at some point, I completely lost access to the forums, and I couldn't ever get it back, and I don't know why. And what else did they have? I'm trying to think of other things, but one of the things that they offered was Fiverr. Or they had some kind of partnership with Fiverr, and I don't remember exactly at what level the Fiverr partnership was. And that's what introduced me to the platform. On Maker's side of things, they were trying to get people to use Fiverr to hire freelancers to do stuff for your channel. So if you needed music, if you needed custom graphics, if you needed whatever, maybe you should go find those services through Fiverr instead of somewhere else, and you might get some kind of deal or something. Well, I went to Fiverr. I had no interest in spending money on Fiverr because I had no money. I was a broke college kid. And I started looking around. I'm like, wait a minute. What if I, instead of buying stuff on Fiverr, sold stuff on Fiverr? And that's when I began doing Fiverr. See, I told you this would all come back around, how these two things are related. I discovered Fiverr because I was a part of a multi-channel network that was promoting that site to get your services from. So that's how that all began. And so in a weird way, I'm still kind of grateful to Maker for introducing me to this service, to this site. Maybe I would have discovered it on my own, maybe not. I don't know. But that happened. And that was really good. But I didn't need Maker for it. I set up my account with Fiverr through Maker, which thankfully when Maker vanished, I still had my Fiverr account because it wasn't like tied to Maker, but I made it through Maker, so I was a little worried that I was going to somehow lose access, and I didn't, and I'm happy for that. It was weird. I don't remember exactly how you had to like set it up or whatever, but it was weird at the time. And basically, I was a part of Maker, and I got access to a music library that I didn't need access to because YouTube had its own. I got access to Fiverr, which you didn't need to have Maker for, so I got nothing from that. Access to a forums that I couldn't access eventually. So everything I kept getting from Maker ended up eventually being useless if it ever had a use to begin with. So I never recommend joining an MCN because basically without an MCN, everything that they could offer you, you can get yourself for either free or as a on a need basis. I don't know what to call it. When you need to get custom graphics or something, you don't need to be a part of an MCN. You can just go do it yourself. So either you can pay the money for services that would get you what you need, or you could get that same stuff for free. You never need to be a part of a network that involves contracts and legalities and responsibilities and obligations and blah, 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 blah. You don't need to do that. You don't need to be a part of an MCN. The exception I would ever give is if you ever are in a position where an MCN can offer you something that you can't get on your own. Like, for example, the copyright stuff back in the day where, like, if you were trying to do gaming on YouTube, copyright was a huge issue. It wasn't for me. I avoided that almost entirely for such a long time. But for some people that complain about it routinely, an MCN was a good way to sort of have a middleman in between the creator and DMCA or copyright holders and that kind of thing. So back in the day, copyright was maybe a valid reason to go seek out an MCN. Today, that is not the case. To my knowledge, there's really no MCN that's going to cover your back for copyright issues unless you're a sufficiently large creator. And in which case, like, say you've got 1 million subscribers and you're like partnered with, I don't know, Social Blade or something. Social Blade might go to the bat for you and try to defend you. But at the same time, if you're that big of a creator, you just, again, you probably just don't need the network. You could probably handle it yourself. Probably. Or even if you're a really big, 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, if you're a really big YouTuber, if you have just either a manager or a producer, or even an assistant to just handle that stuff for you, then bada bing, you're done. And then you're not sharing huge swaths of your money with a partnership like that. Now, again, there might be a situation where, depending on the contract, if you're sufficiently big, it might make sense. But for the vast majority of creators, an MCN doesn't make sense. And unless you're forming like a network with you and a couple other people that you actually already know very well. And it, again, like a multi-channel network can be something as small as, like, for anyone that's familiar with Normal Boots. That's the first one that comes to my mind. That one had like Peanut Butter Gamer, the Continue Show guys. It used to have JonTron back in the day. I haven't watched Normal Boots in a while, so I don't remember who all was a part of it. But they're technically a multi-channel network because they're a network of several channels, but they're not like open for like invitations or anything, but they're not like taking people in, right? So they're technically an MCN, and for they themselves working together like they do, they decided it was worth it to found an MCN for themselves. So unless you're doing something similar with a group of like-minded creators where you are founding your MCN with like-minded creators, it's probably not worth it to join someone else's, like at a corporate level, some corporate MCN that is just taking in creators, because all they're really trying to do is take a slice of your money. and provide you very little in exchange for it. They just get to sit on your money, basically, and provide nothing for you. So yeah, I don't recommend doing it. But that being said, I do owe a lot of where I'm at now to the fact that I did go through that. I'm not going to say that I owe it to Maker, right? But like the fact that that was an option to me back then is a lot of the reason why I could get to where I am now in terms of just having things set up. I did a lot of things wrong back in the day, and I probably still continue to stumble and fall, but it's all a learning experience, and I'm glad that I went through it in so much that now I have that experience and I can kind of share it with people and talk about it. Maker was wild. Maker was a wild time. At some point, they had like tens of thousands of creators, and I defended Maker for a long time when I was a part of Maker because I believed in them. And I believed in the idea that they were trying to do, which at the time was kind of like, not democratized, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but basically make a YouTube partnership accessible to a number of creators that it otherwise wouldn't have been accessible to, including myself. Unfortunately, it did turn out to be a scuzzy corporation that was just sitting on everyone's money. So that was a thing that we did all find out in hindsight later down the road. We did find that out later down the road. I think that there could have been a future where things would have been different. I think that they were too big. I think at the time I didn't fully understand and grapple with the scope of the size of that corporation. But I think that there is room for a multi-channel network to be valuable to a number of channels. But again, it's for very intimate, small groups of like-minded creators. It's not something that you just apply to, right? So that is my experience, or at least some of my experience with Maker. There's not a lot there other than the fact that like they never really provided me with anything and I was basically on my own anyway. So it's something that was a part of my channel's history and my life, but it didn't play a huge impact in the sense that it changed the way I did anything. I still did everything the same way I always did. I had to learn everything on my own. I really had no support. Other than what I could find on like YouTube tutorials and stuff like that for anything that I needed to do in the Let's Play or YouTubing space in that sphere. But yeah, weird how that all kind of happens, how those things were kind of connected, is that me becoming a part of a multi-channel network, which is always a bad idea, did end up giving me two good positives, and that was my YouTube partnership, which I did apply for 3 times. I've been a YouTube partner 3 times. I've been a partner through Maker, and then I lost Maker, and then I got my YouTube partnership back through YouTube, and then YouTube changed its requirements, so I lost my partnership, and then I applied to it and got it again, so that's something that happened. But I did get my YouTube partnership for the first time through Maker, basically, and I did get my Fiverr storefront through Maker, so that's it's wild. I cannot believe I can't think of the other MCN that's super popular that I can't. It's the one that everyone did back in the day, Machinima. There it is, Machinima. Everyone freaking had a Machinima back in the day, and now it's like, I don't even know if it still exists or not. Machinima was the one that everyone was a part of and trying to become a part of. That was like the premium MCN back in the day. But yeah, there you go. And with that, I'm trying to, I'm trying to read this tweet, but I have something in front of my screen. What was I saying? I gotta move my camera. Oh, yeah. Oh, that'll be a topic for another day. So I've got a hashtag Hasty Podcast. This was from literally January. That's why I had to read it to like remind myself what it was, where I was talking about. I had a tweet where I polled a bunch of people for viewers where they prefer to watch streams. And then I polled creators about where they prefer to stream their games between like YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, that kind of thing. And interestingly enough, viewers from my poll, which again, I'm a small Twitter page, so like take that with a grain of salt. I'd love to see this polled by a lot more people to get better numbers. But from my poll, viewers tend to prefer watching streams on YouTube, and creators prefer streaming to Twitch. And I find that very interesting because, you know, those oppose one another. And I wanted to talk about that some more. That was something I wanted to talk about, but we'll save that for next time because we don't have a lot of time left in this podcast. I think it's about time we will wrap that up. But if you do have any thoughts about anything that I talked about today on the podcast, feel free to leave a comment on my YouTube channel, or you can send me a tweet using the hashtag Hasty Podcast. I will be going through those in these podcasts, different topics, and using that to cover different stuff. Join my Discord if you would like. It's called a Hastily Made Discord. There should be a link down in the description somewhere. Follow me on Twitter at Weston Hasty. If you really like the show, you can support it on Patreon at patreon.com/Weston Hasty, where you can get occasional behind-the-scenes posts and that kind of thing. They're pretty rare, but it's a way to support the show and the channel. I would appreciate it if you do consider that. And other than that, thank you all so much for listening to a Hasty Podcast. I have been your host, Weston Hasty, and I don't have an outro. Until next time, wash your hands and stay safe out there, everybody. I'm out of here. Bye.